Contract agent or Lioness?
Lioness, sir. We kill the target.
Oh no! Her cover's low! It's that core! Shoot it!
A woman is on her knees. Guns are pointed at her face. She has seconds left to live. And instead of crying, instead of begging, she looks straight into the eyes of the people about to kill her and makes them a promise. She tells them she will kill every single one of them. This is the moment that has fans of Lioness losing their minds right now, because this isn't just a shocking trailer clip. This is a warning. A warning about what Season 3 Episode 4 is about to unleash. And once you understand what's really happening in this scene, you will not be able to stop thinking about it. Let's start with the scene everyone is talking about, because it is unlike anything Lioness has shown us before. A woman is surrounded. She is outnumbered. She is unarmed. Every single detail of this moment tells us she is about to die. And yet, she does not break. She does not shake. She does not ask for mercy. Instead, she stares at her killers and tells them, calmly and clearly, that she will end their lives too. Think about that for a second. This is not the reaction of a scared bystander caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is not someone who got swept into danger by accident. This is the reaction of someone who has been trained for exactly this kind of moment. Someone who has been taught that even in your final seconds, you do not surrender. You do not give your enemy the satisfaction of watching you fall apart. You use your last breath as a weapon, and that is exactly what this woman does. This single scene tells us so much about where Lioness Season 3 is heading. And to understand why it hit so hard, we need to look at everything that led up to it. Because nothing in this trailer came out of nowhere. Every episode this season has been quietly building toward this exact moment, brick by brick, until now, when it all comes crashing down at once. Season 3 opened with Jo being pulled back into the field after 2 years away. She thought she had left this life behind. She thought she had built a wall solid enough to protect her family from the world she used to live in. But that wall did not hold. Her first mission back was in Ukraine, targeting a high-level Russian intelligence asset. The mission succeeded, but it came at a devastating cost. And it did not end when the mission ended. Because the moment Jo thought she could finally breathe again, armed men showed up at her own home. The war she thought she had left behind followed her all the way to her front door. Then came Episode 2, and things got worse. Jo was kidnapped. The same shadow network she thought she had already dealt with in Ukraine was closing in on her, and it became painfully clear that this was not random. Someone had leaked information. Someone had given away details that put Jo's life in danger. And once that word, leak, enters the story, everything changes. Because once you know there's a leak, you cannot trust anyone fully. Not your team. Not your handlers. Not even the people whose entire job is to protect you. By Episode 3, that fear turned into action. Jo did not wait around for orders from above. She pushed her team into a dangerous, high-risk plan designed to smoke out whoever had been feeding information to the enemy. And this is the moment the entire show shifted. Up until this point, Lioness was a story about an outside threat. A war being fought against people who lived far away in the shadows. But now, the danger was inside the walls. It was someone close. Someone Jo might have trusted. And that changes everything. Because fighting an outside enemy takes strength, but fighting an enemy hiding inside your own team takes something else entirely. It takes fear. It takes constant doubt. It means never fully knowing who is standing beside you and who is quietly working against you. And that brings us to Episode 4, the episode everyone is losing their minds over right now. The official description tells us that Jo leads the hunt as her team uncovers a hidden network working through secret handlers, while the people managing the operation from above are racing to understand just how serious this threat has become. On paper, that sounds like a normal spy thriller plot. But when you place it next to that trailer, the woman promising death to the people about to kill her, the entire episode suddenly feels like something much bigger and much darker than a routine mission, because that woman is not just a random hostage. She is a message. And the fact that she is willing to die without giving up a single piece of information tells us something terrifying about the enemy Jo is about to face. This is not a small operation. This is not a handful of disorganized criminals working together for a quick payday. This is something disciplined, something trained, something built to survive exactly this kind of pressure. And if that is true, then episode 4 is not going to be a clean, satisfying win for Joe's team. It is going to be the moment they realize just how deep this threat actually goes. Let's slow down and really sit with that moment in the trailer, because the more you think about it, the more disturbing it becomes. Picture the scene again. A woman, completely surrounded. No weapon. No backup. No way out. Every rational part of her brain should be screaming at her to do whatever it takes to survive another few seconds. Beg, cry, offer information, do anything that might buy her a little more time. But she does none of that. She looks her killers directly in the eyes, and in that final moment, she chooses power over fear. She tells them, calmly, that she will kill every single one of them, not as a threat born out of panic, but as a promise made with total control. That is what makes this scene so unsettling. It is not the violence of it. It is the calmness underneath the violence. This is where the idea of a ghost network becomes so important to understanding what Lioness Season 3 is really building toward. In the world of intelligence and espionage, a ghost network is exactly what it sounds like. It is a system of agents, informants, and operatives who work completely outside official channels. There is no clear paper trail, no obvious chain of command. These are people who exist in the space between countries, passing information back and forth through handlers who themselves might not even know who they're really working for at the top. It is a structure built specifically to survive being discovered. Because even if you catch one person, even if you expose one handler, the rest of the network simply melts back into the shadows and keeps operating like nothing happened. If Joe is hunting a ghost network in episode 4, that changes the entire shape of her mission. She is no longer chasing a single enemy with a single face. She's chasing a structure, a web of people who can vanish and reappear under different names, in different cities, working for different people depending on who is paying them that week. That is exactly the kind of enemy that turns a straightforward mission into complete chaos. And it is exactly the kind of enemy that would produce a scene like the one we saw in the trailer. A woman, seconds from death, refusing to give her enemies anything, not even the satisfaction of watching her fall apart. And here is the part that should really worry fans going into this episode. If this woman has any connection to the Lioness program itself, even a loose one, then her defiance in her final moments becomes something much bigger than a personal act of bravery. It becomes a message aimed directly at Joe. It tells her that whoever is running this network trains their people exactly the way Joe trains hers. To never stop fighting. To never give up ground. Even when the fight is already lost. That means Joe isn't just facing an enemy who is dangerous. She's facing an enemy who understands her. An enemy who might be a twisted reflection of everything she has built her own career around. Now let's talk about something buried in the title of this episode that might be the most quietly terrifying detail in this entire trailer. The idea that the breach has become a manhunt. Up until this point in the season, the leak inside the Lioness program has been treated like a problem you solve quietly. You find it. You isolate it. You handle it before it causes more damage, and ideally, before anyone outside the team even realizes it happened. But a manhunt is a completely different kind of situation. A manhunt means the danger has already escalated past the point of quiet containment. It means someone specific is now being actively chased, out in the open, with real urgency. Because the risk of letting them stay free has become greater than the risk of exposing the entire operation by going after them publicly. That is a massive shift in tone for this show. It tells us that whatever Joe and her team uncover in episode 4 is serious enough that she can no longer afford to handle this carefully and quietly behind the scenes. She has to move fast now, and in this world, moving fast almost always means someone is going to get hurt. Adding even more pressure to this already tense situation is the fact that Caitlin and Westfield, the two people managing this operation from above, are described as running out of time. These two are not field operatives. They don't kick down doors or chase suspects through alleyways. Their job is to see the bigger picture, to manage the politics, to make sure Jo and her team have the cover and support they need to actually survive whatever mission they're sent on. That kind of structure is incredibly hard to destroy, because taking out one handler does not expose the entire system. It just cuts off a single branch while the rest of the network keeps operating quietly in the dark, waiting to reroute around the damage. For Jo's team, that almost guarantees episode 4 will not end with a clean, satisfying victory. It is far more likely to end with more questions than answers. A few pieces of the puzzle solved while a much larger and far more dangerous picture slowly comes into focus behind them. One of the biggest reasons Lioness works as well as it does is that the show refuses to let the personal side of these characters disappear. Even when the mission gets more dangerous by the episode, Jo is not just a CIA station chief in this story. She's a mother and a wife trying to hold a family together while her job actively puts the people she loves in danger every single day. Every time the show raises the professional stakes, it raises the personal stakes right alongside it. And episode 4 looks ready to push that pattern even further. If the network Jo is hunting has any connection at all to the people who already attacked her house or arranged her kidnapping earlier this season, then this episode is not just about catching an enemy anymore. It is about protecting her family from an enemy that has already proven it knows exactly where to find her. An enemy that has already crossed the line from professional threat into personal invasion once, and could easily do it again. There is also the question of trust inside Jo's own team. And this is where things get genuinely uncomfortable to think about. Once a breach has been confirmed, as it was by the end of episode 3, every single interaction after that point carries a different weight than it used to. When Jo gives an order in episode 4, is she giving it to a team she can fully rely on? Or is she giving it to a group where at least one person might still be compromised? Still feeding information somewhere it should not be going? That uncertainty is exactly what makes a manhunt so much more dangerous than a normal mission. You are not just hunting the enemy out there in the open. You are simultaneously managing the possibility that the enemy is standing right next to you, wearing a friendly face, waiting for the wrong moment to make one small mistake count. One wrong move, one piece of information shared with the wrong person at the wrong time, and the hunters could become the hunted in a matter of seconds. This is also a good moment to think about how Lioness has handled turning points like this in previous seasons. Because Taylor Sheridan clearly has a pattern he likes to build and then twist. Season 1 spent weeks slowly building toward a single explosive mission, letting the audience sit with Cruz and the family she was infiltrating before everything fell apart all at once. Season 2 threw Jo and her team back into action through the kidnapping of a member of Congress. And it also leaned heavily on the idea of an asset who might not be fully loyal. Someone the team had to watch carefully because one wrong move could expose the entire operation. Season 3 is clearly pulling from both of those ideas, but it is combining them in a way we have not quite seen before. This time, the disloyalty is not contained to a single recruit or a single mission. It has crawled inside the walls of the Lioness program itself. That means the stakes are no longer about whether one operation succeeds or fails. They are about whether the entire program can survive being compromised from the inside out. And that is a far scarier question for Jo to be facing than anything she has dealt with so far. There is one more layer worth thinking about before we get to episode 4. And it is the emotional toll this kind of hunt is going to take on Jo specifically. Every season, we watch her try to draw a clear line between the woman who runs deadly operations and the woman who just wants to be present for her own family. That line has been getting thinner with every episode this season, and a manhunt against a hidden, well-organized network is not something you can simply leave behind at the end of the day. It follows her home. It follows her into her relationship, into the way she looks at her own children, wondering if the same shadows chasing this network could just as easily turn around and chase her family next. If this show stays true to what has made it work for 3 seasons now, expect episode 4 to spend just as much time on that quiet, personal fear as it does on the loud, external chase playing out on screen. We also cannot ignore what this means for the people working directly under Jo. A ghost network built around covert handlers is designed specifically to survive contact with law enforcement and intelligence agencies. It expects to be hunted eventually, and it plans for exactly that outcome. Which means whoever built this network almost certainly has contingency plans already in motion. Ways to disappear, ways to erase connections, maybe even ways to strike back directly at the people trying to expose them. That last possibility is the one that should worry fans the most heading into this episode. If the network realizes it is being actively hunted, it may decide that simply going quiet is no longer enough to protect itself. It may decide the safest option left is to eliminate the threat directly. And that threat is Jo and everyone on her team. Every single piece of evidence in this trailer points toward an episode that refuses to give its audience an easy answer. The woman who chooses to die defiant tells us the enemy is disciplined, trained, and dangerous in ways we have not seen from this show before. The idea of a ghost network tells us this threat cannot be solved with one clean strike, no matter how well Jo's team executes their plan. The shift from a quiet internal breach to a full manhunt tells us the danger has grown too large to manage quietly anymore. And Caitlin and Westfield running out of time tells us that even the people with the most experience and the most resources are struggling to keep up with how fast this entire situation is moving underneath them. When you put all of these pieces together, episode 4 stops looking like just another hour of television. It starts looking like the turning point this entire season has been quietly building towards since that very first mission in Ukraine. So here is the real question heading into this episode. Can Jo expose this ghost network before it costs her team, or her family, everything they have left? Can Caitlin and Westfield close the gap in time to actually help her, or will their delay end up being the reason someone else does not survive what is coming? And who exactly was that woman in the trailer? The one who looked her killers in the eye and chose defiance over mercy in her final seconds. What did she know that was worth dying to protect? Every answer episode 4 gives us is almost certainly going to open up new questions right behind it. And if this trailer is any real indication of what is coming, the breach that started as a quiet, internal problem has now become a full, out in the open manhunt. One that is about to demand absolutely everything Jo has left to give.